talked about the class action lawsuit filed against the FAA by applicants for the job of U.S. controller, air traffic controller, but they were the wrong race and the wrong gender. My guest is licensed in Colorado, California, and in D.C., clerk for the 10th Circuit Court of Appeals, attended UC Berkeley for both undergraduate school and law school, served as Department of Education Deputy Assistant Secretary in the Office for Civil Rights. He is now the General Counsel for the Mountain States Legal Foundation. Please welcome to the program, William E. Trachman.
Thanks, Larry. Great to be here.
Mr. Trachman, thank you so much for coming on. I want to talk to you about this big issue, but I got a couple questions first. How in the world did you survive, 7 years at UC Berkeley and come out rational? How'd you do that?
Like Daniel in the Lion's Den, the way to make sure that you're as sharp as a knife is be cut with steel. So I had 7 years at Cal Berkeley. Honestly, I enjoyed being the jolly conservative around campus. It was a good experience for me.
Yeah, and I can just imagine you squaring off against your colleagues, probably 3 or 4 or 5 to 1, which meant it was a fair fight.
Absolutely. Back in the day, there was a nice college Republican Party. There was a college Libertarian Party. I just enjoyed doing speech and debate. So I personally had a great experience. I don't know that I would send my kids there today.
Yeah, I can't remember who it was who recently went there a few years ago to go there, and she was not allowed to even speak. The students just shut her down, and she didn't even get a chance to even speak, even though she was an undergraduate student there. Now, real quickly, you were Deputy Assistant Secretary, Office of Civil Rights, Department of Education. Trump, as you know, wants to end the Department of Education. What's your position on that?
So it's an ambitious plan, for sure. The Department of Education does a lot of things. It's not just student loans or all the programs that Congress delegates to it. It's also civil rights, it's special education. So if he's going to try to get rid of it, there's a lot of questions about where those things are going to go. It's not impossible that they'll figure out the answers to those questions. Maybe the Civil Rights Division will go to the Department of Justice. Maybe special education will just spin off into something new. But there are a lot of questions at the front end about how it's going to happen. I am waiting and seeing. I'm taking a cautious approach. I believe generally in deregulation and government reform. So I'm certainly watching with interest what DOGE is doing every day to try to cut costs and find ways to make government more efficient. As scary as that might be in the abstract, they seem to be really dedicated to it. So I'm intrigued, certainly. I'm not in the department anymore, but if they find a way to function and eliminate the Department of Education, I'm all ears to figuring out how that could be.
The person I was thinking of who was shut down at Berkeley was Heather McDonald. I'm pretty sure that was it was her who was trying to, she was invited to speak and she was not allowed to speak. Now, the lawsuit that was filed by Mountain States Legal Foundation on behalf of 1,000 qualified air traffic controllers or would-be air traffic controllers. Tell us about that.
So this started all the way back in the Obama administration.
Wow.
In air traffic controller world, there is a pre-employment test called the ATSAT. So if you think about applying to college, you take the SAT. If you're going to law school, you take the LSAT. In order to become an air traffic controller, you would take the ATSAT, which is based on merit and skill and how good you would be if you were in the air traffic controller world, helping planes land and take off. And the Obama administration thought that the test was leading to a applicant pool that was disproportionately Caucasian. So let's just say out of the people who passed the ATSAT, they thought that too many of them were Caucasian, and so they had to do something about this test. And what they did was they flushed it. They said, the test is over. If you pass the test, it doesn't count anymore. We're flushing your score. We're adopting a biographical test called the biographical assessment. It's going to ask you a different series of questions. Some of the questions are like, how many sports did you play in high school? What was your worst subject in high school? Things that had no obvious connection to air traffic controller ability. And our theory of the case, which is, frankly being borne out, is that these were designed to gerrymander the racial pool of air traffic controllers, meaning that our clients got left out in the cold.
How many air traffic controllers are there?
Well, in our class, there's over 900, so almost 1,000. The court forced us to narrowly define our class. So there's people who are left out in the cold who weren't part of the 2012, 2013 hiring process, 2014 hiring process. So there are many more. I mean, we're getting emails every day from people who say, I'm not in your class action. Am I out of luck? This happened to me in 2015 or 2016. And unfortunately, the statute is passed, but what it indicates is that this is a widespread problem. So sure, 1,000 in our class, but probably many more thousands who suffered discrimination based on race. And it's not lost on me that we have an air traffic controller shortage now of highly qualified people in the seat. And it's an injustice that's as awful as it is unnecessary. Wouldn't it be great if we had a lot of really high qualified air traffic controllers to fill those seats that are being left empty right now?
Well, that was my question. But for this discrimination against would-be air traffic controllers because they're the wrong race and wrong gender, we would not have a shortage, correct?
So we'll never know. I mean, I think that's certainly probably true. I mean, the other stress factor here is that if you let in a bunch of people who ought not be there because they wouldn't have passed the merit-based test, then you add extra stress to the people who are qualified, who are there for the right reasons. And so it makes it a less attractive job. It makes it so that people are having to cover the slack for their colleagues. And so I wouldn't be surprised if the reason the Reagan airport was short is that there just weren't enough qualified air traffic controllers in the mix that night or the previous nights, because there weren't enough people in those seats to say, here I am, I want to be an air traffic controller. I want to be in a really high stress position where we're understaffed. That's just not necessarily a place where a lot of people want to work and spend their career. So I do think if we didn't have the Obama era discrimination followed up by the Biden era emphasis on diversity, we'd be in a very different world.
Well, the president suggests that DEI had some sort of relationship to what happened between that helicopter and regional jet. And as you know, he's being hammered. But if it is true, as I've read, that in normal staffing times, there would have been one person dedicated to the helicopter and one person dedicated to the regional jet, as opposed to two people, to one person doing the job for two people, maybe this would have been avoided.
Yeah, generally it's on the onus. It's the onus of the people who are defending discrimination, defending,
20
inserting
seconds,
risk.
20 seconds left, sorry.
Yeah, generally it's the job of the people who are defending discrimination to say it didn't have an effect, not the job of the people who are defending merit and skill to say, oh, it had to be DEI. We're the ones defending that everyone ought to be hired based on their merits, and the best and the brightest ought to be in those seats. For the people who are saying, no, discrimination is good, diversity is our strength, the onus is on them to defend how DEI didn't cause this accident.
And the lawsuit is still ongoing, correct?
That's right. So the Biden administration claimed privilege over 14,000 documents.
Thanks for watching these clips from The Larry Elder Show. If you enjoyed this content, be sure to subscribe to my channel and hit the bell icon so you never miss a moment. More thought-provoking discussions are just a click away, so stay tuned, and we'll see you in the next one.